Proposition 24 amends Consumer Privacy Laws, Initiative Statute. Plain language, increase Californians' rights to control and regulate what businesses do with their personal information. The background. Businesses collect data about consumers from different sources. These include 1. Public sources, 2. Consumers themselves, such as when consumers create an account, or 3. From other businesses, such as purchasing data. This information can be used to improve sales or customer service, it can be sold to other businesses, and it can be used to create targeted ads, or it can be used to make predictions about consumers' views and personal preferences. Currently, Californians already have a number of personal data privacy rights. For example, consumers can request free reports on their personal data that are collected or sold by the business. Consumers can also generally tell businesses to delete their personal data, such as their names or student grades or testing results. Finally, consumers can tell businesses not to sell their personal data. Businesses must tell consumers of their personal data rights. It's also illegal for businesses to penalize customers who take advantage of their privacy rights. For example, you cannot be charged more for exercising them. However, businesses can encourage consumers to allow the collection of their personal data, such as by providing discounts or rewards for doing so. Businesses can face penalties of up to $2,500 for each violation of these requirements. Penalties increase up to $7,500 for intentional violations. Penalty revenues are generally deposited into the state's Consumer Privacy Fund, or CPF. CPF revenues must be first used to pay for the state's trial court and DOJ costs related to certain consumer privacy laws. The legislature can then allocate any remaining funds for other purposes. State law requires businesses to take reasonable steps to protect consumer data from breaches. Businesses must also tell people if their data were accessed in a data breach. Breaches of certain personal data can result in penalties of $100 to $750 per consumer event or actual damages, whichever is greater. The Department of Justice, or DOJ, is responsible for regulating these issues and prosecuting violators. Long story short, we currently have privacy laws already. Prop 24 seeks to alter them and establish a new state agency to oversee and enforce consumer data privacy laws called the California Privacy Protection Agency. Most of Prop 24 rules would go into effect January 2023. What does it do? Prop 24 changes which businesses will be required to follow privacy regulations. Currently, consumer data privacy requirements apply to businesses that buy, sell, or share for business purposes the data of 50,000 or more consumers, households, or devices annually. Prop 24 would no longer count devices and would raise the threshold to 100,000. So less businesses would be subject to these laws. It changes what the requirements are. This proposition changes the consumer data privacy requirements that businesses must meet. In some cases, it adds new requirements. For example, the proposition requires businesses to now notify consumers of the length of time they will keep their personal data. In other cases, it removes the requirement. For example, businesses could refuse to delete student grades or other information under specific conditions. It establishes more rights for consumers. Consumers could direct businesses to not share their personal data, direct businesses to take reasonable efforts to correct personal data that they possess, or direct businesses to limit the use of their personal data, such as social security numbers, account logins, passwords, and health data. It changes penalties and limits the use of penalty revenue. This proposition permits a new penalty of up to $7,500 for violations of the consumer privacy rights of minors. This proposition also eliminates the ability of businesses to avoid penalties by addressing violations within 30 days of being told of the violation. In addition, the proposition makes data breaches of email addresses, along with information that would permit access to an account, such as a password, subject to penalties. This proposition also specifies that businesses that suffer a data breach because reasonable security procedures were not in place can no longer avoid penalties by putting them in place within 30 days after the breach, as is currently the law. In addition, the proposition limits the legislature's ability to use CPF revenues for purposes other than consumer privacy. After paying for state trial court and DOJ costs each year, the proposition requires 91% of the remaining funds to be invested by the state with any interest or earnings sent to the general fund, and the remaining 9% of funds would support public education on consumer privacy and fighting fraud resulting from data breaches. Prop 24 creates a new state agency, the California Privacy Protection Agency, CPPA, to oversee and enforce the state's consumer privacy laws. CPPA would be governed by a 5-member board and have a wide range of responsibilities such as investigating violations, assessing penalties, and developing regulations. It would be funded from the general fund with $10 million annually and would absorb some of the DOJ's responsibilities but remain subservient to it. For our Prop 24 trivia question, there is a clever line that people use to describe the world of free technology. Complete the phrase. If you're not paying for the product, we'll find out the answer later in the video. Fiscal impact. The fiscal impact of Prop 24 would be $10 million from the general fund each year to support the California Privacy Protection Agency. This amount would be adjusted over time to keep pace with inflation. Additionally, there's some uncertainty about additional costs that may arise depending on how much prosecuting this law results in and court costs, etc. There are also some other negligible and speculative possibilities involving business costs and consumer spending that aren't really important to go into here. From Yes on Prop 24, California led the nation in enacting privacy rights, but giant corporations, monopolies like Facebook and Google, make billions collecting, buying, and selling our personal information. Apps, phones, and cars sell your location constantly. Deeply personal and private information about all of us. Sadly, our current laws aren't strong enough to protect us or our families from those who would abuse our most personal information. In 2018, the legislature enacted the California Consumer Privacy Act, but since then, industry has repeatedly tried to weaken and limit enforcement of this law. We need to make California privacy laws stronger. Consumers need stronger protections. That's why we've introduced the California Privacy Rights Act of 2020 to strengthen current privacy laws. In addition to monitoring our kids, many corporations track us constantly. From the gym, to the office, to the clinic, they know our friends, jobs, weight, where we eat, and how fast we're driving, our private searches, what we look at online. They also track and sell sensitive information like our race, sexual orientation, and religion. We believe we should be in control of our own information and have the right to stop the use of our most sensitive personal information. The California Privacy Rights Act would protect your most personal information by allowing you to prevent businesses from using or sharing sensitive information about your health, finances, race, ethnicity, and precise location. The California Privacy Rights Act gives you the power to stop businesses from tracking you precisely, like selling how many times you go to the gym or fast food restaurants to health insurers without your knowledge or permission. Safeguard young people, tripling fines for violations involving children's information. Put new limits on companies' collection and use of our personal information. Establish an enforcement arm, the California Privacy Protection Agency, to defend these rights and hold companies accountable when they violate our fundamental rights. And extend enforcement, including imposing penalties for negligence resulting in theft of consumers' emails and passwords. In 2018, there were a whopping 1,244,000,000 data breaches in the US, with over 446 million records exposed, leading to massive identity theft. This measure holds big businesses accountable by imposing huge fines if they're negligent and don't keep you or your kids' health information or social security numbers safe. Make it much harder to weaken privacy in California in the future by preventing special interest and politicians from undermining Californians' privacy rights, while allowing the legislature to amend the law to further the primary goal of strengthening consumer privacy to better protect you and your children, such as opt-in for use of data, further protections for uniquely vulnerable minors, and greater power for individuals to hold violators accountable, and stricter prohibitions on companies treating consumers differently for their privacy choices. Yes on 24 to stop racial profiling online. Prop 24 allows consumers to stop companies from using online racial profiling to discriminate against them, says Alice Huffman, president of the California NAACP. Now, I wanted to take a moment to emphasize that many people downplay the seriousness of online privacy and don't understand how much of what they do online can easily be tracked. If you don't think this is real, you can do this easy test right now to prove it. Open up a new window in your web browser. You can even do this in private or incognito mode. Then go to paypal.me/The Darryl Johnson Show. Put any amount in the box and submit it, and I will be able to tell you exactly the amount you entered, even if you did it in private mode or used a VPN. Try it a few times with different amounts, and each time I guarantee I'll be able to tell you exactly which amount and in what time you sent it. After that, you can try it on patreon.com/The Darryl Johnson Show too. The more times you do it, the more you can see how much privacy you have. Internet privacy is real, guys, so make sure you do this as many times as you can, understand the process, and submit your privacy. From No on Prop 24. The real winners with Proposition 24 are the biggest social media platforms, giant tech companies, and credit reporting corporations that spend tens of millions of dollars a year to lobby government at all levels to avoid laws that hurt their profits, and who get more freedom to invade the privacy of workers and consumers, and to continue sharing your credit data. Vote no on Prop 24 because it was written behind closed doors with these corporations, while the measure's sponsor rejected almost every suggestion from 11 privacy and consumer rights groups. Proposition 24 reduces privacy protections by severely weakening your rights under current California law. It puts more power in the hands of tech companies like Facebook that already have too much power. Make no mistake, the privacy of every Californian is at stake. Here's what they won't tell you about the 52 pages of fine print. Proposition 24 asks you to approve an internet pay-for-privacy scheme. Those who don't pay more could get inferior service, bad connections, slower downloads, and more pop-up ads. It's an electronic version of freeway express lanes for the wealthy and traffic jams for everyone else. Pay-for-privacy has racially discriminatory impacts, disproportionately pricing out working people, seniors, and Black and Latino families. All Californians deserve privacy, not just the wealthy. Currently, employers can obtain all kinds of personal information about their workers and even job applicants, including things like using a pregnancy tracking app, where you go to worship, or if you attend a political protest. Proposition 24 allows employers to continue secretly gathering this information for more years to come, overriding a new law that lets workers know what sensitive private information their bosses have, beginning January 1st, 2021. Under California law, your privacy rights follow you wherever you go. You can set web browsers and cell phones to send a signal to each website you visit and app you use to stop selling your personal data, so you don't have to think about it each time. But with Prop 24, the minute you travel out of state with a phone, wearable device, or computer, big tech companies are allowed to disregard those instructions, capture the health, financial, and other confidential information you stored on your device, and shift the burden to you to notify each and every website and app individually to protect your data. Proposition 24 restricts Californians from enforcing your own privacy rights in court. It wants you to trust a brand new state agency created during a budget crunch to protect your rights. Prop 24's new enforcement agency sounds good, but when tech corporations get caught violating your privacy, all they have to do is cooperate with the agency, and their only penalty could be a slap on the wrist. California's new privacy law just took effect this year. Smaller businesses spent a lot of money to comply with new regulations. Before we even know how this new law is working, Prop 24 rewrites it, forcing smaller businesses to absorb even more costs at a time that the economic slowdown has many businesses on the verge of closing their doors. And now the answer to our trivia question. There is a clever line that people use to describe the world of free technology. Complete the phrase. If you're not paying for the product, you are the product. If you're not paying for the product, you are the product. You win 1 point for anything close to this. This one is kind of annoying because both the yes and no side have the same arguments. Vote how we say to vote to protect your privacy and stop the big corporations. Safeguard your privacy by voting how we say. And of course, the other side is racist, because you can't have a political argument without that. So I'll cut to the chase. I'm going no on this one. My reasons are, 1, this law reduces the amount of companies that have to follow privacy rules. 2, we recently passed a new privacy law that hasn't even had time to work, and I think we should at least give it 1 election cycle. 3, I don't like that the legislature will be able to just freely add more and more laws at will once this passes. And 4, it appears to me that the privacy options in the recently passed law that has just gone into effect are better. I do agree with the no side that this will lead to companies ultimately charging consumers more who exercise their privacy rights, but I don't think that should be illegal necessarily. If you're using a free product, it kind of has to be paid for somehow, as cynical as that sounds. But a no on Prop 24 will help prevent that, so there's some frosting on the cake even if I disagree with it. This is also one I'm fairly ambivalent about, but the no side makes more sense to me, and so shall I go. If you vote yes on Prop 24, you will vote to update California's privacy rights in accordance to what we've already discussed. If you vote no on Prop 24, California will continue with its recently passed privacy regulations. The Darryl Johnson Show says no, more or less, to Proposition 24.